The next episode of how to learn meta ads and going over Facebook and Instagram ad opportunities. Hi, my name is Lauren Petrillo, and I am an agency owner of a digital marketing company based in Orlando, Florida, where we provide lead generation and e-commerce services for many of our clients. A lot of folks come to us because of our published case studies in and around Facebook ads. And sometimes we get questions from small business owners that are just navigating the platform for their very first time. And I'm coming to you live today to go over some of the top 10 questions that we were able to find while navigating specifically Events Manager inside Facebook. So quick question if you don't know it, Events Manager is the tool in which your Meta Pixel, or formerly called Facebook Pixel, connects to all of the events that are happening on your website based off of the traffic coming from on and off of Facebook. So the signals that you need the Pixel to send back into your ads platform all are related to the Events Manager, and is a place that's really confusing if you're just starting off with Facebook ads, Meta ads, and it's a place that's bewildering even if you've been doing it for a while. So I'm just going to go over some of the top 10 questions I've seen from small business owners and navigating the Events Manager platform. Side note, if I sound a little bit different, I've been very sick for the last week and I have kept my voice super quiet. So hopefully it stays at this volume before I become Frog Lauren again. So anyways, we're using Restream, a tool my good friend Uzair recommended, and navigating this share screen. So bear with me as I'm going to dive into Events Manager and walk around the platform itself. So I'm going to get into it and hopefully this works. Bear with me, sorry. Sharing screen. Okay, I think so. And so here we go. So we're going to go inside an actual account. So I'm going to move my face and show you ways to get around Events Manager. So people may be familiar with, so this is our Ads Manager. This is one of our dummy accounts that you can see. You'll be able to get into Events Manager multiple ways. The easiest way is to go from the hamburger tool, and then you'll just be able to click on Events Manager right here. So we're going to do that and jump into it and see how it works. This is going to be the overview of stuff, but what we really want to look at specifically is on the left-hand side. So here we've got data sources, and we're going to change some pieces because it's not a super optimized pixel yet. But what we're going to show you is this is what we're talking about. So here's Events Manager. Remember, we can get through it from here or as well as down here. And then, of course, you can just type in events_manager2. Even if you had just done, well, that's not what I want to. Even if you had just done the URL of Events Manager, the older one, it should still redirect you back to our regular Events Manager 2. So there's things that have changed quite a bit, but they're always, all roads lead to Rome. And what we're going to talk about specifically is Events Manager, which you can get to here, or through the URL directly. So when we're on this page, what we're looking at is the information that comes from Pixel. So here I have on this is a Pixel helper tool. If you don't have this Chrome extension, I highly recommend that you add it. Totally free, and it lets you check to make sure that your pixel is active on this website. Now, I'm really excited to share with you this example because this website has 2 pixels. And this definitely causes challenges in the conversions, which we're going to see inside Events Manager. But I wanted to show you that both of these are here. And so this is an opportunity to troubleshoot later, and we'll show you pieces into it. But this is how effective this Chrome extension is. You need it because having these 2 pixels is a nightmare. Trust me. You don't want that on your website. You need a developer to remove them. So anyways, we're going in here. This is the back end of the Events Manager platform. Really quick question that I get asked a lot is, how do you change your name? There's a pencil up here. Change it to Happy Dance. Whatever you want to name the pixel itself, those will show up in here as well. But everyone is defaulted to whatever numbers the pixel signs you up with. So here this ends in 8778. That can be really, really confusing, especially when you have multiple pixels on a page. That can sometimes happen when you're using Google Tag Manager. Or if you have multiple developers working on your site, this is a Shopify site. The back end has pretty simple instructions on how you connect that pixel, but this sneaky one is still lingering on the page and will be scrubbed clean before our next live. Anyways, again, here is what Events Manager looks like. On the left-hand side, this is the overview page we had seen when you first log in. Data sources, this is the main destination of where we're going to be and what we're going to be looking at. This star inside a circle is a custom conversion section. So this is really important if you are looking at, nope, I went to switch, sorry. If you are looking at, this is so fun, figuring this out. If you are looking at having custom conversions related to lead generation, so if you have a landing page that you capture a form on and then a thank you page with a unique URL, you can build that custom conversion here. And it's really important if you're tracking ads and optimizing for that end destination. This works really well if you're doing quizzes inside Facebook ads, but custom conversions live here, and it's this triangle area. And then partner integrations, that's if you're using lead hooks or other software. But if you're a small business owner just getting started, don't sweat it. This can be a place where you can connect your CRM, your ESP, your email service provider, or customer relationship manager so that all of your systems are talking to one another. But let's get back into the data sources is what I really want to chat about. Because with post-Facebook iOS world, what we had to do was choose our 8 events. It's essentially choosing your 8 favorite children that you're going to tell the metapixel to be looking at. Yes, it is called the metapixel, but everyone still uses it colloquially as the Facebook ads pixel. But you're telling Meta what you want, who are your favorite children, and why. You get 8 events or 5, depending on if you're allowing them to do the purchase conversion value. And so here you can see that we have those events set up, but we're actually going to rearrange them on this call. How can we do that? We click over here on aggregated event measurement. And then what this is allows us to manage our events, and we're going to go into the back end of managing events. Here you can see we only have 7 of 8. Most often when we get into new ad accounts, they have about 4 that are set up and defaulted to, but you always want to choose your 8. This is the most important thing that you can do for your Facebook ad strategy in a post-iOS ecosystem where Apple users are 95% of the time opting out of being tracked. So you just want to make sure that you're capturing as much first-party data for Facebook that they can get. It's not your first-party data, but it is for them to optimize the platform. Letting the puppy in. Okay, so here we are inside of it. Another important thing to note is that this domain should be verified. This is something you do in the settings. So if you're in this all tools, you go to business setting and you go to the data sources to make sure that your brand is protected. You need to verify your domain before you can move forward. Here you go into the domain. We click on this. This is the domain you want. Then we're going to manage the events. Note this warning. When you make changes, especially if you're highlighting different leads, custom conversion events, because you're a lead generation forward organization, you need to be mindful that it will disrupt your current ads. So it's something that before would take up to 72 hours before it could be impacted. Freddie, come. Nope. Okay. So before you'd want it to be impacted, but it has changed quite a bit, but it's still going to disrupt any current ads that you're running because you're optimizing for specific pages. That's why when you saw on the account, everything was paused down because I knew that we were coming into doing this. Just if you remove events from configuration that are using current ads, your ads may not be delivered as expected. Additionally, modeled reporting may be less accurate for a brief time after editing events, especially if you make a large change or if you have a low event volume. So one of the custom conversions that we've got here is for a blog for vitamin C. We're not driving any traffic to that blog. So if we were, that campaign would be definitely impacted. But saw that warning and jumping on. So here, we're choosing which events that we want to do. Remember, we only had 7. So what we're going to do is if you have less than 8, go to add event and you're going to get this blank. What you're going to do is choose what type of event you want to optimize for. I'll show you what custom conversion looks like. That's ones that we created. So we have these 2 set up that we created from this place right here. I'm going to I'll make a quick custom conversion actually. Let me show you how that works. I'm just going to choose, should I wear sunscreen? It's our most recent blog published. So we're going to go into custom conversions, create custom conversion, blog sunscreen. I'm going to do all URL traffic, and then I'm going to take URL contains, should I wear sunscreen indoors, create. I'm not adding any conversion value. I'm just making this as a custom conversion so we can see that it's right here. There's no activity on it, but if I visit this page and reload it and reload it and reload it, this pixel is going to trigger, and therefore we should start to see this status to pick up. So let's go back into where we were at. Manage events, managing events, we're editing. So here we chose that custom conversion, and you can see that the blog sunscreen is now showing up. So I can say I want to optimize and tell Meta that this is a very important event for me. Because this is a very important event, I'm signaling it as one of my top 8. However, I'm not going to be using that because that's not something we're driving traffic to. Therefore, I'm going to delete this one. What I'm also going to delete is this one, and make sure we're going to turn this one on. So when you turn this on, oh, let me delete more. Why is this being weird? Not eligible to turn on for pixel. Oh no. Okay. This pixel doesn't have enough data on it. So you need at least information within 30 days. This does happen with new accounts. Totally fine. But what you want to do is when you have, sorry, can you tell us like I've been, when you have events occurring and you want the purchase, I highly recommend you turn on this. It optimizes only for 5 of 8. Can't take more because the value does so much for it. But then you can see here the value optimization. You need to have so many events within a 7-day period. But because we don't have that, totally fine. We're going to keep going and add up to 8 events. So purchase is the highest for me. I want Meta to know that a purchase is the most important conversion. So it's essentially, again, choosing your favorite child of the 8. I put mine in this order: purchase, add to cart, initiate checkout. We're going to go into ads pixel. I also want I want initiate payment, add payment info. So you'll notice that I'm actually going in reverse order, where purchase is the last item on the conversion journey. What you're going to have, though, is before the purchase is someone that's added payment. Before that, that's someone's initiated checkout. Before that's add to cart. I'm actually flipping it. So purchase is the one with the fewer conversion events. Add to cart should be the one with the most conversion events with someone who has a propensity for purchase. So I'm telling Meta, purchase is the most important for me. But then next is add to cart because I do want it to be a volume game. And so then I'm reverse engineering what that process looks like and prioritizing the lower events. That's just what I've seen effective for me and for our clients' campaigns. And then I like adding view content. And then we're going to go into, again, for these components, we have, let me see, we've done all those. View content search. I'll probably do add to wish list is a really, really good one if you have a wish list app connected to your Shopify store. And then we're going to do one more. I don't have the wish list, but I'm going to keep it on there. We're going to do the contact page. This is really good. If you have a non-e-commerce brand, the about page should probably be your second one. The about page is typically the second most visited page on a website. It allows someone to have your history and understand who you are before someone initiates contact with you. So if you don't have purchase, or if you've already chosen your custom conversions for your thank you pages and for your upsells and those URLs, add the about page. It's really good traffic that you can keep an eye on. So that's the most important part of setting up. So you hit apply, choosing these, and it's telling me obviously that these new events are going to take effect. Actually, I'm going back because I know we don't have the wish list yet. So I'm going to go to blogs all, which is a custom conversion. Silly me. We're going to go to here, go blogs all. That's a custom conversion I made. That's based off of the URL contains blogs. Yes, I'm confirming these pages or these changes, excuse me. And then I'm hitting yes to save. So that's just a quick walk around where if you're setting up your account for the first time, you really want to make sure that you have those web events configured. So you'll see that we have the 8 of 8. We're just going to go back into these manage events. You can see where activity is happening. And then these are other pieces that are getting activity, but it's where you set up here that you can go to. So now I'm going to jump back into looking at some of the other questions that we have gotten popularly. So we've just navigated a little bit about the most important component of using Events Manager is setting up your first 8 events. The next component is how do you get into Events Manager? We showed you 3 different ways that you can access it: through the URL, through the menu, both as an icon or in the dropdown. Now, you may not have it show up as an icon yet because that constantly changes. I think Facebook has like 200 different like footer menus for the mobile application. And so I have seen in the Business Manager, those frequently change and cycle through. Another question that I get a lot is, how do I enable events inside Ads Manager? So once you've set up those events, you have to have first your domain verified, but secondly, you need to have your metapixel onto your website. You can do that through either using a developer, or when you set up your pixel, it'll actually be able to like connect. There are like 16 different integrations that Facebook has natively that will walk you through how to build your metapixel onto your website, as well as give you email instructions to a developer that can help you. How do we create the events inside Ads Manager? We walked through a little bit of how you create your first custom conversion, where I showed you using the blog that should I wear sunscreen indoors or not, pulling that custom conversion using that part of the URL. Again, lead generation clients, you pull the back end of the URL. I like using URL contains because if you're using UTM parameters, I have seen UTM parameters interfere when you're not using URL contains in your custom conversion. You can do URL is exact match, but I strongly recommend using URL contains, provided that you are not doing like URL contains TY for your thank you page, and then you realize that you have like 17 of those that can tell you like TY. If you want to, and you have that nomenclature and naming convention for all of your thank you pages so that you can just tell Meta a conversion is a conversion is a conversion. But if you're trying to get really in the minutia of the page you're optimizing for, do the full URL slug. Another question that we get is the first step into setting up this integration. So when you, let me go back to sharing my screen. Let's see. When you are inside your Events Manager, what we want to go over is like, if you don't have this pixel, you're actually going to be integrated like right out the gate. You're going to say create your first pixel. It'll be on this screen so that you'll be able to go into it. It's also allowed inside your Events Manager. But if you don't have any of this activity showing up at all, either the pixel's installed wrong or it's not set up. Here's an example. This is a pixel. Oh, I wonder, it shouldn't be the other one. Let's just double check. This number ends in 6612, the bogus one. So you can see here, unmatched events, there's nothing. If you see this and you have visited your own website and you've reloaded the page a few times and check it on a different device, you'll still see events running. But if you have nothing here, either the pixel's installed incorrectly or you're not connected to the right one. So sometimes when you are a small business and you're working with an agency, it's really important to know that you want to make sure you own the pixel. When you create an ad account, the ad account is associated specifically to that pixel. So often when you create a new ad account, it will create a new pixel. Why is that? Because the ad account needs to know which pixel it's optimizing for. So it defaults to creating a new one. You can share the pixel amongst ad accounts. So if you have an agency that takes over, you're like in between agencies. So you worked with someone and they're like, oh my gosh, Lauren and Mongoose Media are the best. I'm going to hire them. You can have the previous agency share their pixel data into your ads account, or you can still use our ads account to maximize their pixel. But I highly recommend that if you are not working with an agency and you're doing this on your own, make sure that you own the pixel when you set it up, because that's all your first party data. And that tends to be the messiest thing I see when people go changeovers between freelancers, contractors, or agency owners. Going back into my questions, just flying through some. Components of what is the first step in setting the integration? We just went over. How do you track events on Facebook? So within the events themselves, when you're setting up your Facebook campaign, you're optimizing for whatever that event is. When you're in the ad set, that drop down, you'll be able to see your custom conversions that we created, like the blocks one. You'll be able to see that drop down as well as any of the pixel events that you have connected to your site. So tracking the events, it starts with making sure you're optimizing for the events. And then once you've set up those custom conversions, you'll be able to optimize for them as well as add them into your dashboard, which I can go into next week of showing a actual custom dashboard. Couldn't do it last time, but yeah, I can definitely in a future one show how you can build out the custom dashboard of your dreams to get all the KPIs and benchmarks you want to be tracking. Is it true it's the most powerful section inside Facebook Business Manager? 100%. Most people stop at settings and stop at ads manager and neglect the events manager, but this is where all the magic happens. If you don't have it set up, you're not going to be able to track everything that you need to occur for your ad optimization. And it's going to be a lot of money spent that you didn't want. Let me just try and share my screen one more time. I'm inside here because there is one component that's really important to bring up. So you're in the overview. You do want to just like check out a few pieces. Again, if you're new to the pixel, you are able to say you build out that custom conversion. You can enter the URL to make sure that the pieces are moving. Server events, things of that nature, that happens with Cappy. It's the only time that I go and do it. But if you're a new business owner, don't worry, this isn't for you. No sweat. Diagnostic. So this is something that I like checking in on once a month for our clients, just reviewing, making sure everything is okay. Here you can see that it's getting, our pixel is sending events from this page. So what I can do is I can just ignore it. I can tell them that that's not a concern. I know that's a Shopify URL related to it. So I just hit ignore. And then we have settings and history, just showing you like, so here we know what the name is. It's shared with this. You have all the history of where these pieces are. And then you can continue a setup of these pieces, which we'll do on a separate one later. Oh, really important component is here, advanced matching. So within Shopify and with everything, especially if you're selling to California, you need to be mindful of what data you're allowed to track and send back into Facebook ads, because this pixel, this pixel is everything. It's the life and blood. It is the most important part of your Facebook ads, making sure that this data is correct. But we live in a world where people don't want all their data shared. So you need to make sure that you are giving permission to Facebook to collect as much data as you're legally allowed to. What does that mean? There's 3 different levels of permission in which you can provide data, a little bit, a lot of it, or most of it. But you need to make sure that the privacy policy on your website is setting you up for success. And the most dangerous thing if you're advertising to the US is making sure that you're CCPA compliant. I am not a lawyer. I am not pretending to give any sort of legal advice. But I do know that you want to be mindful of what your privacy policy says and allows of feeding data back into the ecosystem. So when you have on advanced matching, you can see what information are you sending back into the ads manager. I'm going to turn on everything because I know that information is more important to me and we've got our pieces set up. But you want to have on advanced matching because look at all this information that Facebook can collect. When someone leaves on your website, or even if they're not leaving from Facebook, all this pixel loads everyone's visit. If you're running Google Ads, Snapchat, what have you. And so this information, if it's available, can be fed back in through it to further optimize your ad campaigns. So tracking events automatically without code, we keep this on unless you're using ad tech where you're hosting all that data on a different server. Totally confused by what I'm saying? Don't worry. Leave it on track events automatically without a code. And then here we have the conversions API. So there's 2 ways that you can send data back into Facebook for your ad campaigns. One is through the pixel, which is this piece of code that's added to your website. And then the other one is through the server side. So you're setting up the conversions so that anything that is fulfilled on the Shopify gets fed back into Facebook, regardless if someone opted out of that third-party pixel information. So that's called Cappy, or often referred to as Cappy because it's Conversions API. And then you set these up. You can see the connected partners. So if you're using a Shopify store, it's really seamless to integrate. You just connect your Shopify store. And then other components of, if you have this traffic permissions, because I'm just going to show it as it's here. If you are partnering with someone for a giveaway, for example, and you're lending them your pixel code on their website or on a specific page, you can allow or disallow certain URLs from that data impacting or non-impacting your scores. A good example of this is we have a client that is in the event space. And they host many different types of events. And sorry, I told you I was sick. I'm going to take water. Bear with me. So the clients in the event space, they own many different types of events. Some are related to running, some are related to non-running, and those components are actually like managed as like different companies inside this one larger umbrella. But the audience is often similar, and there's overlap, especially for their e-commerce products and other elements related to their business. So they do some pixel sharing and they don't do some pixel sharing. So based off of which account it is, you can have allowable traffic permissions that are just signaling to Meta which events you want, which ones you don't. So long story short, that's just some of the back end of what this events manager looks like. The only other questions I have from the top 10 one is how do you remove a Facebook pixel from the events manager? The best way that you can do it is don't worry about it. Leave them on there. I have on some ad accounts many pixels inside Events Manager. Just ignore them. You can absolutely do it. If you need to, send me a message and I'll happily walk you through it. But I don't want to make anyone think that it's that big of a deal. We have never done it. I'm sure there are others that will disagree on the topic. But if it's inside the dashboard, I just ignore it and make sure that the one I know I'm focusing on is named properly. And then how often are the Facebook pixel event stats updated inside Ads Manager? So that information is sent all the time. I like just looking at it because I believe Google does it like midnight or something. It's a rumor. That's what someone has told me before. But Facebook is constantly sending data, and note that there is also often a delay, billions of users. We have seen delays up to like 24 to 72 hours. It's gotten less in the last few months, but we definitely do see delay attribution. Where does this come up? When we do seasonal sales. So for example, if we're running a sale for Mother's Day, we can turn off all the campaigns and we'll show potentially like a low number of sales. And then 2 days later, we'll see an abundance more of sales. Even though that page has been shut down, it just takes some delay, sometimes related to the attribution. And last but not least, Facebook Events Manager is showing events, but the Ads Manager is not. That definitely happens. What does that mean? When Facebook Ads Manager is not showing the events, but your Facebook Events Manager is, it means those conversions and that traffic is happening not from your Facebook ads. Facebook ads is going to show you the data that's connected directly from Facebook ads to site. However, that's not 100% correct in the sense that if someone has opted out of being tracked, sometimes based off of conversion events that you've sent through, that data can still show up in Events Manager and not show up in your Ads Manager. Again, we use a bunch of ad tech to help overcome and mitigate the iOS 14 and 15. Well, that's more for email, but those changes that impacted. And so there's server-side hosting that we've used, and also other platforms that allow us to dive into the data to track the measurement and the efficacy of our ads outside of Facebook. But those are, again, those are higher things. Those costs range from $100 to $1,500 a month at times. Some scale with how much you're spending and how much revenue they're tracking. But we are currently testing out a new ad tech platform for us to compensate where Events Manager and our Pixel is lacking. More on that later because it's only like 2 weeks in. But the ones that we have used and still continue to use include Wicked, Reports, and Hyros. We also use a tool called Stape.io, and that's a server-side hosting platform. So those are the three that we're using and love, but we are exploring additional ones, and it's exciting. So that's just, basic introduction, kind of walkthrough of the things that you need to know if you're a small business owner trying to figure out Events Manager for the first time. Thanks. Bye. Now to figure out how this goes. So